watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about Trey Hendrickson. A couple of new developments here. Albert Breer, who does a phenomenal job covering the NFL, he has a take on whether or not the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson will ultimately come to an agreement on a new deal. Also, several NFL writers for ESPN put their heads together and came up with some trade scenarios for the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson. I'm going to just kind of tear those apart here on today's show because they really were pretty head-scratching as far as I'm concerned, as far as the compensation that Cincinnati would return or get in return for a Trey Hendrickson trade. That's all coming up here on today's show. Just a little heads up and doing a little solo producing on today's show. So if you see me, look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. We will have you covered with this whole Trey Hendrickson saga. He's not going to show up for mandatory minicamp, right? I would be absolutely shocked if that were the case. So we'll have some coverage for you on that as well. And obviously, if ultimately something gets done with Trey Hendrickson, we will have that video for you guys at the channel as well. Going for 20,000 subscribers. That is our next goal here at the channel. So help us out. Help yourself out as well by hitting that sub button for me right now. All right, so Albert Breer, who is one of my favorite people in the media, to be completely honest with you. He's affiliated with the Monday Morning Quarterback. You see him on Prime, right? He has some stuff he does with Amazon, is frequently a contributor on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He really is all over the place, does a tremendous job, and he said he believes a deal will get done between Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals, and ultimately he'll be ready to play in stripes come week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. That is Albert Breer's belief, and his belief circles back to one thing, and I really shouldn't say thing, one particular person. I think we all can guess who that person is, but here's exactly what the quote said from Albert Breer as far as Trey Hendrickson goes. He said, because I think Joe Burrow has real power here. My guess is they'll get something done. I just don't know how they'll get there. This is the 3rd consecutive offseason it's been an issue for Cincinnati. Hendrickson's initial deal was a COVID-19 affected discount deal. He got a Band-Aid extension in the summer of 2023. He got nowhere last summer, and generally when a guy has to wait that long, he won't be looking to cut his team a break. The market has materially changed. Hendrickson may not be the sort of war daddy pass rusher as Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa, who both demanded market-changing deals. But Hendrickson did have 35 sacks the past 2 years, so he's more than within reason to expect to get where Danielle Hunter and Max Crosby got this offseason, somewhere around $35 million per year. The Cincinnati Bengals haven't gone there yet. We will see if they do. Really do think that is interesting insight there from Albert Breer. You hear a lot of these talking heads go out there and make comments, but usually when Albert Breer talks, I listen, and I view this to be good news for the Cincinnati Bengals. More thoughts on this in a second, but first, pin comment time here on today's show. Will the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson agree on a deal? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section right now. Type Y for yes or N for no. It's interesting that Breer brings up Joe Burrow, right? Because we actually spent some time talking about that very thing here on our show a couple of weeks ago, saying, if I was Trey Hendrickson and you want to get something done, the ways things get done with this organization is through Joe Burrow, right? I would be going to Joe Burrow saying, hey, Joe, when you go out there and talk to the media, kind of help me out like you did with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, right? Because when Joe Burrow speaks, the Bengals listen, which is really crazy because, as we've all followed this team for a really long time, right? And the Bengals have always been super stubborn, right? And they're still very stubborn, but they kind of just do what they want, stick to how they want to do things. But they have pivoted off that because of Joe Burrow, and we've seen that here several times, right? Most recently in March when you had the extensions for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe Joe Burrow gets a little bit more involved. Now, if you remember, when Trey Hendrickson went out there and he did his whole thing, right, showed up, talked to the media, kind of aired his grievances out there publicly, Joe Burrow had a press conference, I believe, the next day, and it was rescheduled for the following week. So that was definitely not a coincidence. Bengals did that intentionally. And then when the Joe Burrow press conference came around, he didn't really have a ton to say. He said, yeah, he deserves to get paid. He showed his support for Trey Hendrickson, but it really wasn't anything that drastically move the needle. Now, when Trey Hendrickson's looking at this market, he's sitting there going, well, I had more sacks than all these guys. And Myles Garrett, of course, is garnering $40 million per year. Now, where exactly is he going to fall on this list? Obviously, it's been reported and rumored, right, that Trey Hendrickson was offered $28 million per year, and he said, you know what, that's not good enough. Now, in his mind, what is good enough? Because Katie Blackburn, remember at those owners' meetings, was like, yeah, sometimes you need to be happy at a rate where maybe he thinks he should be happier at a higher rate, basically saying that, you know what, we gave him a fair offer, and he was not pleased, and ultimately, obviously, didn't sign it. Now, 35, yeah, he deserves to be in that 35 range, but will the Bengals get to that 35 range? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think they will get to that range, but could I see them getting up to 30, right? If they go from 28 to 30, is that enough for Trey Hendrickson, or is he absolutely just trying to break the bank here and be up there around Myles Garrett? If that is the case, that's not going to happen here in Cincinnati, but I could see this team eventually getting to the point where they're willing to offer him $30 million per year, but who knows? We'll see if ultimately these two sides can agree on a deal. We'll continue with our show here in a second, but do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks, because today's show is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Do you know ball? There's only one series left in the playoffs, and the championship is officially on the line. That means time is running out for you to put your final takes to the test on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. This year's basketball playoffs are headed towards crowning a first-time champ in more than 50 years. Don't miss your chance to cash in on history with Prize Picks. Pick more or less on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and more for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Prize Picks also invented the flex play. Beautiful thing about the flex play, you don't have to get all of your picks correct. You can still miss one and have an opportunity to double your money. This is what we're rolling with here as far as our season-long prize picks go. For football, going with the less than on Jared Goff passing yards, the less than on Travis Kelce receiving yards, right? He's got to age here at some point. I think we saw that kind of towards the end, certainly, of this most recent season. And also going with the less than on Jaden Daniels rushing yards. That is our season-long football prize picks. And again, the best thing about the flex play, you don't have to get all those selections correct. You can still miss one and have an opportunity to double your money. But back to basketball. Today is Flex Friday. Make sure you opt in and tap the checker box in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Second part of today's show here, I want to be spending some time talking about some trade situations for Trey Hendrickson. Now, I have been very clear. I do not think Cincinnati will trade Trey Hendrickson. If they were going to do that, it would have happened before the 2025 NFL Draft. Obviously, at this point, that is in the rearview mirror. But of note, a couple of days ago, ESPN put out some of their top guys. Jeremy Fowler, right? Dan Graziano. They put out some trade situations for several guys, and obviously included Trey Hendrickson as well. So we're going to kind of go through these offers here. And some of these were pretty wild, to be completely honest with you, when you're talking about moving Trey Hendrickson. We'll start here with Jeremy Fowler. Here's the Bengals trading him to the Indianapolis Colts. Again, this isn't a prediction. This is just like, hey, if a trade ultimately were to happen, this to me, and by me I mean Jeremy Fowler, makes the most sense. He said, now look, first off, the trade partner totally makes sense, right? We all get that. The Indianapolis Colts, the connection with Lou Anarumo. Trey Hendrickson obviously has played the last few years under Lou Anarumo. There appears to be a good connection there. Fowler says the Bengals get a 2026 second-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick in exchange for Trey Hendrickson. I mean, to me, that is just a complete head-scratcher, right? You're getting the guy that is the sack leader in the NFL, and you're giving up a second-round pick. You're not even getting a player that you can use this season. Who on earth? Like, the Bengals would have to be out of their mind to do that. Here's what Fowler said specifically. He said, it's clear the Bengals aren't getting a first-rounder for Hendrickson, which I agree. If they would have got one, he probably would be moved, or else a deal would have been done by now. But the elite pass rusher still has immense value. Yeah, no kidding. They would be smart to capitalize on a trade like this if they aren't going to pay him what he wants. The Colts have around $20 million in cap space to orchestrate a new contract for Hendrickson. Would this be smart, moving Trey Hendrickson for a second-round pick right after the 2025 NFL draft? Like that, he says the phrase smart in there. It's like, I don't get that at all. Not even a little bit, right? I mean, Trey Hendrickson was the runner-up for the Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, I get it. He's 30, right? He's getting up there in age. But only giving away, that 2027 fifth-round pick, that to me is nothing. So you're basically giving him up for a second-round pick. That to me just makes absolutely no sense. 3 more trade situations brought by ESPN that we will get to here in a second. But first, would you trade Trey Hendrickson for a 2026 second-round pick? Maybe I'm the crazy one. All right, maybe I've lost it a little bit, and this is actually a fine deal. But I don't get this at all if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. But let me know. Sound off. I really want to know what you guys think. If you made it to this point in the video, everybody should be voting on this question. Type A for yes or B for no. Similar thing here with Dan Graziano, and we'll get to what he said, which I think is just absolutely outlandish here in a second. But he's got Trey Hendrickson going to Buffalo, and Cincinnati gets a 2026 second-round pick. That's it. All right. Again, like, what are we doing here? Like, if we're the Cincinnati Bengals and you do this and you give them to Buffalo, right? I mean, my goodness, you're going to give them to a team within your conference that has Josh Allen, and is that kind of one of those teams that you got to get through? Oh, yeah, we'll give them to Buffalo. I mean, who in their right mind would do that if you're Duke Tobin and Cincinnati Bengals front office? Here's what Graziano said, which is just absolutely laughable, in my opinion. He said, with offseason pickup Joey Bosa already injured, this move would help the Bills' pass rush at a stronger, healthier option. Yes, no kidding. Hendrickson might not get the new contract of his dreams, but perhaps Bills general manager Brandon Beane could sell him on an improved chance to get to the Super Bowl. All right? Now, I get I'm the host of Bengals Breakdown, right? So I am a Bengals fan. I don't have a problem admitting that. But if you want to say you're going to Buffalo and it's just drastically more chance of winning a Super Bowl than here in Cincinnati, you're off your rocker. That's absolutely ridiculous. You got Joe Burrow. I know a lot of people probably say Josh Allen over Joe Burrow, right? I don't think that's true at all, right? I think you got the better quarterback here in Cincinnati. And frankly, you got the better offense, better defense, obviously not. But I think here in Cincinnati, you're in a better spot. And also, you have a team here in the Bengals that can beat the Chiefs. Buffalo can't do that in the postseason. So that's very noteworthy to me as well. I mean, come on, Graziano, I don't get that whatsoever. And in the process, only getting a second-round pick back, come on. Got to be better than that. 2 more before we get out of here on today's show. Ben Solak here. Now, I sort of get this, right? But again, it's just not enough compensation here for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they would be more likely to move him to Detroit than Buffalo, right? Detroit, yeah, you can see him in the Super Bowl, but it's a different conference, what have you. I just don't think this is enough. You're getting a second-round pick and then a 2027 fourth-round pick. I mean, that's 2 years from now. That means nothing. The Bengals are in win-now mode. 2 years from now means absolutely nothing to me. So that's kind of why I'm scratching my head here at this 2027 nonsense. Like, no, the window is now. You just paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You got to go now. I don't want a 2027 pick. I don't care what round it is in. And then you also have to give up a fifth-rounder as well. Now, from the Lions' perspective, the Lions have there's been some rumors around Hendrickson and the Lions, right? They've kind of cooled those down a little bit. But, Aiden Hutchinson and Trey Hendrickson, that's that's the best pass rush duo in the National Football League. So that would be obviously great for Detroit. This isn't enough. Last one here. Seth Walder has this one. Now, I do want to applaud Seth here real quickly because he's the only guy of the 4 that put another player in here, right? You have to understand, if you are giving up Trey Hendrickson and the draft already happened, if you're going to trade him, I want a guy that can come in and help us win now, right? So you got Jerzon Newton, right, who is a quality player, right? Played his collegiate ball at Illinois. He's a younger guy, right? Could bring some youth to your defense. He's more of a rotational guy for Washington at this point. So I get that. But then you take a look and say, oh, great. You got the player, right? But then you don't even have a second-round pick. Only a third-round pick and a seventh-round pick in the 2027. Walter's basically saying, oh, you throw Newton in here, you don't have to give up a second-round pick. Maybe I am wrong as far as what the value is for Trey Hendrickson. Clearly, the Bengals aren't happy with what teams are offering, right? Or he would have been moved by now. But I like that he has got to give credit for Walter having another player in here, right? But you got to have at least a second-round pick in here as well. And he also made the note that, the Commanders are in win-now mode. Well, that's great. Cincinnati is very much in win-now mode as well, and maybe even more so because they're paying the quarterback, right? And Washington obviously has a second-year guy in Jaden Daniels. But overall, those four are just, it's just absolutely outlandish that those four were publicized out there, published by ESPN as, serious stuff. I would be absolutely shocked if a Trey Hendrickson deal went down and it resembled anything like these four that we discussed here on today's show. Make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. So help me out. Give me a follow